Now that the Dragon Prince has entered the second half of the saga, this is the best time to speculate about what is in store for some of the characters. There has been plenty of foreshadowing that someone is gonna lose an arm. The concept is first introduced by Rayla when her assassin's binding is tightening around her wrist. Then we are teased with the concept in season 4 when the human architect is on trial and it kind of looks like she's gonna get her hands chopped off. That was strike number 2. But what seals the deal as genuine foreshadowing is Finnegan in season 5 when he threatens to chop off someone's hand. Once, it's forgiven. Twice, okay, maybe it's a coincidence, but 3 times, that is a threat and a warning. So, with that said, let us talk about the candidates. Our first candidate is of course Rayla. She was released for her binding at the end of book 1 and she was in the clear. But season 4 revitalized that idea for me. Right after the drag gang escapes Umber Tor and Rayla goes back to them, the first thing we see is her dismembered hand. She is back on the list. Our second candidate is Runaan, who still holds on to the assassin's binding. He is currently trapped in a coin and the fate of his arm is unknown, but I'm pretty sure the people stuck in coins are stuck in time, reliving the terror of their last moments as they were being sealed. Rayla currently has the coins. With the help of Callum and some Quasar diamonds, it is an absolute certainty that Runaan will be freed. And given that Sim is part of the drag gang, and even Subea is on her way to being healed, he can easily get that binding removed. I actually think Runaan has a pretty good chance of retaining his hand, but the possibility does exist, so he gets an honorable mention. That being said, Runaan has expressed some doubt about the path he chose as an assassin, so losing a hand may not be such a terrible fate for him if it gives him an excuse to retire. But Rayla has proven herself incapable of the work, and we do need assassins. So again, I think he'll keep his hand, but he definitely deserves to be on the list as an honorable mention. And speaking of honorable mentions, our third candidate is none other than Ezran. Out of the 4 candidates, he is the least likely, but he deserves a spot on the list for 3 reasons. 1, when Rayla first speaks about losing a hand, it is with Ezran. So the first reason is admittedly by association, but in book 4, we get our second reason. Rex Igneous tells Ezran that he looks exactly like a distant ancestor, the Orphan Queen, which is true, but you know what would make the resemblance uncanny? Yeah, chop an arm off, they will practically be twins. And last but not least, the reason that definitely earns him a spot on the list comes in season 5 when Finnegan explains that the law of old dictates that the sentence for thievery is losing a hand. So maybe he's not such an honorable mention after all. But you saw the title and the thumbnail. The real fictional person who should be worried about losing a hand is of course Callum. I am like 77% sure that he's gonna lose an arm by the end of the series. Out of all the characters, the odds are ever in his favor. I would personally bet a moonstone on this theory. And we're gonna start at the beginning by reading that conversation Rayla was having with Ezran. And by the way, thank you for failing at your mission. I like being alive. Rayla smiled a little. I'm glad you're alive, Ezran. Knowing you is definitely worth losing a hand. She dangled her purple hand out in front of her face. Ezran paused, contemplating her words, then spoke up. That is the weirdest, nicest thing anyone has ever said to me. Well, who knows? Maybe this is my unlucky hand, so when it falls off, my luck will change. It was an awfully dark attempt at being lighthearted. While Ezran and Rayla joked about losing limbs, Callum leaned over the edge of a cliff, trying to see through the mist. Immediately after they have that conversation, the text is clearly alluding to Callum. Callum is the one who's likely to lose a hand. And also, it is a little bit of play on words, but notice how Rayla's hand is described as purple. That is, of course, because the circulation has been cut off, but what other imagery does the color purple allude to? Dark magic, okay? Callum will lose a hand because of dark magic. This, of course, leads us to Lux Aria. During season 3, Queen Kessa gives Viren entry to the city under the premise of revealing and cleansing him of corruption. He starts the process of purification, but it's interrupted halfway through. We have to see the rest of that ritual. And the only person who can be cleansed of darkness is Callum. Right after Kessa's failed attempt to purify Viren, Aaravos mentions that her situation is ironic, and like they say, history might not repeat, but it does often rhyme. It is likely that Aaravos infiltrated the city before when a human was being cleansed of dark magic, and that human was most likely the Orphan Queen. When we first see her, she is holding the Key of Aaravos. The next time we see her, she is meeting with Rex Igneous, and an arm is very noticeably gone, specifically the same hand that she used to hold the key. The first time I thought a lot of attention was being placed in Callum's hand was when he was debating whether to toss that key into the lava. I feel like the key is definitely going to be useful in the future, but he might just get burned from using it.
Just cut this thing off me.
But it'll burn you.
I don't care. Just do it.
And while we're on the topic of the key, I want to throw in my 2 cents on what I think the key is for. It is just an arcanum detector, but it is also a map. Not to Aaravos, but to none other than the Star Scraper. From Callum's spellbook, we know that each time the cube is rolled on the ground, it leaves marks pointing in the same direction. One of the end credit scenes alludes to this, and those marks are pointing northeast. The Star Scraper is located in the Black Tundra, the northeasternmost location on the map. Harold tells Callum in his letter that it unlocks something of great power in Xadia. That something, and I'm sorry if it is a little bit cliche, but it's probably knowledge. Knowledge is power. And also, the way they found out about the Star Scraper to begin with was in a library. So I just thought I'd mention that. Anyway, back to the likelihood that Callum is gonna lose an arm. Although Rex Igneous sees a physical resemblance between Ezran and the Orphan Queen, I think the one who resembles her more, personality-wise, is Callum. Both of them are mages, and both of them are learning to be distrustful of dark magic. So there's that. Those are the biggest reasons that make me certain about this fate, but there are other minor details that kind of point in this direction, like when Rayla's hand is sticking out of the rubble, it's Callum who finds it. Also, when the dragon defeats Lou Jane's illusion, Callum is thrilled about his sab hand, and wouldn't it just be a shame if he lost it? The last thing I'll mention comes in book 2, when Callum is trying to make the case for Claudia when Rayla is suspicious of her, and he lists all the reasons as to why it's only natural that Rayla is suspicious of her, and then says, but on the other hand, Callum immediately realized that he was not prepared with anything on the other hand. Yeah, cause he's not gonna have one by the end of the series. Okay, maybe I'm kind of grasping at Moonlight there, but the devil's in the details, you know? So those are all the receipts I have for this theory for now, but if Callum is to lose an arm, this will be the perfect opportunity to finally interact with one of the other human kingdoms, Avenir. In the Tales of Xadia, we learned that the Swampy Kingdom specializes in healing and the creation of beautiful prosthetics.
Books are in fashion these days.
Someone is just bound to get an arm chopped off, and based on all the foreshadowing, I just feel like the odds are in Callum's favor. But I would of course love to hear what you think on the matter. Who do you think is most likely to lose a hand? Did I miss any potential candidates? And if so, who? Or are you right and completely and utterly agree with me? But other than that, that is all I have for today's theory. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the pretty like button and feel free to subscribe while you're at it if you want to join me on this beautiful glimmering moon nexus. And hit the bell if you want to be notified whenever the stars align. But until then, Tenebras post Lux.